Beneath the sidewalk you walk on, an entire world is waiting. Our modern cities are not the first to stand on that ground. They are simply the latest layer in a story written over thousands of years. This is a journey into the hidden history buried directly under our feet. We will explore how contemporary urban landscapes are built atop ancient ruins, forgotten catacombs, and lost settlements. It creates a palimpsest, a manuscript where older writing is still visible beneath the new. These subterranean mysteries range from unexplained structures and lost rivers to sealed chambers and unidentifiable artifacts. Each one holds vital clues to past civilizations and their untold stories. By the end of this exploration, you will have discovered 30 specific historical enigmas hidden beneath 30 different modern metropolises. We will uncover why a sealed well in an ancient city might rewrite history, and what truly lies in the forbidden tunnels under a European capital. This is a global archaeological detective story, spanning from the depths of Tokyo's flood channels to the buried pyramids of Mexico. What forgotten chapter of history do you think is lying silently beneath your own city? A simple block of limestone, barely larger than a shoebox, sits behind a metal grill on a busy London street. This is the London Stone, and for centuries it has been the city's most enigmatic and revered relic. Passers-by on Cannon Street today might glance at its modest display case without a second thought, but this stone carries the weight of an entire city's mythology. Its origins are lost to time, sparking theories that range from the practical to the profoundly mystical. Some scholars suggest it was a Roman milestone, the very point from which all distances in Londinium were measured. Others whisper of a far older past, proposing it was a druidic altar, a sacred object from a time before the Romans ever arrived. The most enduring legend, however, ties the stone directly to the mythical founder of Britain, Brutus of Troy. It is said he brought the stone with him, and that as long as it remains safe and intact, so too will the city of London. Throughout the medieval and Tudor periods, the stone was no hidden artifact. It was a central player in the city's civic life. Oaths were sworn upon it, proclamations were made beside it, and it was treated with the solemn respect of a living charter. Its perceived power was so great that during periods of rebellion, capturing the London Stone was seen as a symbolic act of seizing the city's authority itself. The famous rebel Jack Cade is said to have struck the stone with his sword upon entering London in the 15th century, a dramatic gesture to declare his rule. For generations, the belief persisted that the stone's fate and London's fate were one and the same, a superstition that granted this unassuming rock an aura of immense protective power. Yet its true original purpose remains one of the city's deepest mysteries. Was it a boundary marker, a religious object, or the plinth for a now vanished statue? Each theory paints a different picture of London's foundation. The stone has been moved, damaged, and encased, its journey mirroring the city's own turbulent history. Today, it rests in its crypt-like setting, a silent witness to nearly 2 millennia of change. It serves as a perfect, tangible symbol for the theme we are exploring. Here is an object of immense legendary significance, literally embedded within the modern urban fabric, reminding everyone that the past is not just below our feet, but woven directly into the walls and streets around us. What other foundational secrets, equally potent and equally hidden, might be waiting in the shadows of other global capitals? But beneath the official history of Paris lies another city entirely, a shadow capital built from darkness and bone. The catacombs are famous, a macabre tourist destination where the remains of millions line the walls in neat, haunting patterns. Yet this public ossuary represents only a fraction of the subterranean maze. The true scale of the underground Paris is almost incomprehensible, a network of ancient quarries, forgotten crypts, and passageways that could stretch for over 200 miles. Authorities have officially mapped only a small portion. Beyond the gated tourist entrances and the well-trodden paths of the ossuary, the labyrinth descends into realms of pure mystery, sealed off by concrete barriers and marked with warnings. These are the forbidden zones, places where the city above officially says you cannot go, and for good reason. The unmapped tunnels are notoriously unstable, a crumbling honeycomb where a wrong turn could lead to a dead end or a collapse. But the physical danger is only part of the story. The allure of these sealed networks is the folklore that clings to them. Throughout the 20th century, rumors persisted that the deepest tunnels served as clandestine meeting rooms for the French resistance during the Second World War, hidden arsenals or planning chambers that were never documented. Other tales speak of even older secrets, of medieval quarries that were repurposed for clandestine gatherings, their walls perhaps holding echoes of ceremonies long forgotten. This has given rise to a unique subculture of urban explorers known as cataphiles. These individuals treat the underground as a second home, a place of freedom and discovery away from the regulated city above. They navigate by hand-drawn maps and word of mouth, holding clandestine parties in carved-out chambers they call bunkers, and they dedicate themselves to finding new passages. For them, the ultimate goal is to breach one of the official seals, to slip into an area marked interdict and see what the city has tried so hard to forget. What might they find? Perhaps simply more empty tunnel, the echo of a pickaxe from the 18th century. Or perhaps they might find artifacts left behind by previous explorers from different eras, a rusted lantern from the 1940s, or strange symbols etched into the stone. The mystery is the point. It is the idea that in the heart of one of the world's most known and visited cities, there exists a frontier as unmapped and lawless as any wilderness, a silent, dark echo of Paris that continues to resist complete understanding. The Tiber River flows through Rome, but it is not the only waterway that shaped the city's destiny. 2,500 years ago, the valley between the Capitoline, Palatine, and Esquiline hills was not a grand civic center but a swamp. A treacherous malarial marshland made the area uninhabitable, a barrier between the early hilltop settlements. The solution to this problem became one of engineering's most enduring legacies, the Cloaca Maxima, or the Great Sewer. Its original construction in the 6th century before the Common Era was a monumental act of will. The early Romans, under the direction of their Etruscan kings, did not initially set out to build a sewer. They carved an enormous open-air canal through the heart of the bog, channeling stormwater and runoff from the hills directly into the Tiber. This single act of hydraulic engineering did more than just drain water. It drained the land itself, reclaiming solid ground from the mire. The space that was created, that newly stable and dry public square, would become the Roman Forum, the very political and social heart of the empire. Over centuries, as Rome grew in power and population, the open canal was gradually vaulted over with stone, transforming from a visible drainage ditch into a hidden, subterranean marvel. The Cloaca Maxima evolved into a true sewer system, carrying waste from the city's public baths and latrines out to the river. Its arched brickwork passages, large enough for a person to walk through, became a testament to Roman ingenuity, so well built that sections of it remain in use to this day, still performing their ancient duty. Yet for all we know about its function and later history, the original, earliest form of the cloaca holds a profound mystery. What did the landscape truly look like before that first trench was dug? The act of draining the marsh was so complete that it erased the very environment it conquered. Archaeologists suspect that within the deepest, oldest layers of the sewer's brickwork, or in the silt of its inaccessible side channels, there could be a time capsule from that primordial moment. The slow-moving waters of the original canal would have acted as a trap, collecting objects lost or deliberately offered from the world above. These could include everyday tools from the earliest Roman communities, ceremonial artifacts deposited during the foundational rituals for such a massive project, or even botanical and animal remains that paint a perfect picture of the lost marsh ecosystem. The mystery is sealed in stone and mud. Modern exploration is incredibly difficult, limited by the ongoing flow of water and the immense structural risks of disturbing such an ancient, load-bearing relic. So the Cloaca Maxima continues its silent work, a functioning piece of infrastructure that is also an archaeological site of immense potential, guarding the material secrets of Rome's very birth. If the river could speak, what stories of that foundational struggle between land and water would it tell? While Rome engineered its way out of a swamp, another civilization chose to burrow directly into the earth for survival. In the heart of modern Turkey, beneath the unassuming town of Derinkuyu, lies one of history's most breathtaking subterranean achievements. This is not a single tunnel or a hidden chamber, but an entire underground metropolis carved by hand from soft volcanic rock. Discovered by chance in the 1960s when a resident found a mysterious room behind a wall in his home, the excavation revealed a staggering labyrinth descending over 200 feet deep. It is a city built not for the dead, but for the living, designed with a sophistication that feels almost modern. Archaeologists believe its primary architects were early Christian communities, perhaps around the 7th or 8th century, seeking refuge from the relentless raids sweeping across the Anatolian plateau. Yet some scholars point to architectural features that suggest an even older origin, possibly with the Hittites over 1,000 years prior, hinting that the city may have been expanded over millennia by successive generations. What they created was a self-contained world. The excavated sections reveal 18 levels, though many more may remain blocked by debris. This underground stronghold could shelter an estimated 20,000 people along with their livestock and supplies for months on end. To navigate its depth, you walk through narrow, sloping corridors that could be sealed at intervals by massive, wheel-shaped stone doors, each weighing several hundred pounds. These were the city's ultimate defense mechanism, rolled into place from the inside to isolate entire sections from invaders. But survival required more than just strong doors. The engineers of Derinkuyu solved the fundamental problems of underground life with ingenious clarity. Dozens of ventilation shafts, some over 100 feet deep, provided fresh air to even the lowest chambers. Protected wells tapped into the groundwater table, ensuring a constant supply even during a siege. There were spaces for animals, wine and oil presses, kitchens, communal rooms, and even dedicated chapels, complete with carved crosses and altars. This was not a temporary hideout, but a planned community designed for long-term habitation, a testament to human resilience in the face of external threat. The true scale of Derinkuyu, however, is the core of its enduring mystery. This city is almost certainly not alone. It is believed to connect via long, hidden tunnels to other underground settlements in the region, like the nearby Kaymakli, suggesting a vast, interconnected network of subterranean refuges spanning the entire Cappadocian landscape. How many such cities are there? How far do the tunnels truly run? And what triggered the final, complete abandonment of these incredible shelters, leaving them silent and forgotten for centuries until a modern homeowner knocked on a wall? The answers are still buried, waiting in the dark, cool silence of the stone. Deep beneath the bustling streets of Manhattan, a forgotten cathedral of the Machine Age sleeps in perpetual twilight. This is the old City Hall station, the original southern terminus of New York City's first subway line when it opened in October 1904. To step onto its platform today is to step into a time capsule of Gilded Age ambition. Unlike the utilitarian stations that would follow, City Hall was designed as a showpiece, a declaration that public transit could be beautiful. Its vaulted ceiling is a graceful work of Guastavino tile, a series of elegant arches and skylights of stained glass that once bathed the platform in a soft, colorful light. Brass chandeliers hung from above, and intricate plaques celebrated the city's history. For decades, it was the proud gateway to the city, but progress has a way of leaving even the most beautiful creations behind. As the subway system expanded, longer trains became the standard. The station's platform, built on a sharp, graceful curve, could not accommodate these new cars safely, leaving too wide a gap between the train and the platform edge. By 1945, with passenger numbers dwindling, the city made the practical decision. The magnificent City Hall station was officially closed, its entrances sealed, seemingly lost to time. Yet it was never destroyed. It simply went dormant, preserved in the dry, dark underground like an insect in amber. This is the fate of several ghost stations along the New York City subway lines, each abandoned for similar reasons of efficiency and changing infrastructure. They exist now as silent negatives of the city above, their original mosaic signage still spelling out street names, their vintage tile work untouched by decades of advertising. Tours are occasionally offered, granting a privileged few a glimpse into this frozen past, where the only sound is the distant rumble of a train passing through an adjacent tunnel, never stopping. But the sealed stations fuel more than just historical curiosity. They are the bedrock of enduring urban legends. For as long as the subway has existed, New Yorkers have whispered about a hidden, parallel network. Tales persist of secret tunnels branching off from these abandoned platforms, passages said to connect to the basements of iconic landmarks like Grand Central Terminal or the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, built for the private use of presidents and dignitaries. While most of these stories are dismissed as myth by transit authorities, they speak to a deeper truth about the city's psyche. In a metropolis built layer upon layer, where steam pipes from the 1880s run beside fiber optic cables, the idea that there are still uncharted passages, that something beautiful and complete could be simply switched off and forgotten, is a powerful mystery. It suggests that the city we know is just a surface layer, and that beneath our daily commute, a more elegant and secretive city endures, waiting in the dark for its lights to be turned back on. While New York's ghost stations were abandoned by chance, another city built its hidden world by deliberate design. Beneath the ancient hutongs and modern boulevards of Beijing lies a monument to a different kind of fear, a subterranean city constructed not for transit but for survival. Known as the Dixia Cheng, or underground city, this is a labyrinth born from the geopolitical tensions of the 20th century. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, at the height of the Cold War, the Chinese government embarked on a staggering civil defense project. Fearing the possibility of aerial conflict, they mobilized citizens to dig. The result was a network of tunnels and reinforced rooms so vast it was said to be capable of sheltering nearly all of Beijing's population at the time, an estimated 6 million people. The scale was intended to be a statement of resilience, a buried fortress for the entire capital. This was not merely a series of basements. Contemporary reports and rare visitor accounts described a space engineered for long-term habitation. The tunnels, some wide enough for trucks to pass through, were said to connect to designated areas that could function as schools, clinics, and even small factories. There were storerooms for grain and supplies, independent ventilation systems, and wells for water. It was envisioned as a self-sufficient ark, a place where life and industry could continue indefinitely beneath the earth, shielded from the world above. For a time, sections were open to the public, even hosting curious tourists in the 1980s and 90s. Visitors reported seeing faded propaganda posters from the era of its construction, still clinging to the concrete walls, and Spartan dormitories with rows of simple beds. Today, however, the underground city presents a very different kind of mystery. The vast majority of its known entrances have been sealed with concrete and metal grates. Official access is heavily restricted, with only a few small, sanitized sections occasionally shown as historical curiosities. The heart of the network, the miles of tunnels containing the true artifacts of its time, is closed off. This creates a compelling enigma for historians and urban explorers alike. What remains down there in the silent dark? Are the walls still lined with the original motivational slogans and murals, perfectly preserved in the cool, dry air? What mundane objects, a forgotten shovel, a discarded uniform button, a ledger of supplies, were left behind when the perceived immediate threat faded? The full, complete map of the Teotihuacan has never been publicly released, leading to speculation about its true reach. Whispers persist of secret passages linking it to government buildings or the Forbidden City itself, though these are likely more legend than fact. The real intrigue is more profound. Here is an entire chapter of modern history, a massive physical undertaking that consumed immense resources and labor, now largely entombed and forgotten by the city it was meant to protect. It stands as a preserved capsule of a specific moment in time, a tangible expression of a global anxiety now past. The mystery is not one of ancient origin, but of recent memory, silently waiting beneath the feet of a bustling, forward-looking metropolis. What does such a place tell us about how societies prepare for an uncertain future and what they choose to remember or quietly close away when that future changes? Sometimes the greatest secrets are not hidden in plain sight, but are mistaken for the landscape itself. In the Mexican state of Puebla, a lush, tree-covered hill rises gently from the valley floor, crowned by the beautiful Santuario de Nuestra Señora de los Remedios, a colonial-era church with a bright yellow facade. To the casual observer, it is a picturesque example of Spanish architecture built upon a natural elevation. This is the Tlahueltepetl, or the man-made mountain, and it is not a hill at all. It is the Great Pyramid of Cholula, the largest monument ever constructed by humanity in terms of volume, a staggering 4.45 million cubic meters of earth and clay brick. Its base is nearly twice as wide as that of the Great Pyramid of Giza, and it covers an area of over 45 acres. Yet for centuries, its true identity was lost, buried not just by time, but by a deliberate act of cultural transformation. The story of this pyramid is a story of layers, both physical and historical. It was not built in a single campaign by one civilization, but was a sacred project that grew over 1,000 years, beginning around the 2nd century before the Common Era. Successive cultures, from the Olmecs to the Toltecs and finally the Aztecs, each contributed to its expansion, adding new layers of construction over the old like the rings of a tree. Each new layer encased the previous temple, a practice that both honored and preserved the sacred site. By the time Spanish conquistadors arrived in the early 16th century, the pyramid was an ancient, overgrown center of regional pilgrimage, dedicated to the feathered serpent god Quetzalcoatl. In a powerful symbolic act, the Spanish did not merely destroy the temple complex at its summit. They buried it. They directed local labor to cover significant portions of the massive structure with earth, and upon this newly created hill, they built their church. This was a profound statement of conquest, literally planting the symbol of their faith atop the spiritual heart of the indigenous world. For generations, the pyramid slept beneath its grassy mantle, its memory fading into local legend. The modern rediscovery began in the early 20th century, when workers constructing an asylum on the hill's slopes unearthed ancient walls. Archaeologists began to excavate, not by removing the hill, but by tunneling into it. What they found was a breathtaking internal labyrinth. Over 5 miles of tunnels have been carefully carved through the pyramid's core by researchers, allowing them to study the different construction phases without dismantling the entire structure. Walking these tunnels is like walking through a geological timeline of Mesoamerican belief. The walls reveal the distinct architectural styles of different eras, sudden transitions in brickwork that mark the handoff from one culture to the next. In some chambers, vibrant murals have survived in the darkness, like the famous mural of the drinkers, depicting a ritualistic scene of figures consuming what appears to be pulque, an ancient fermented drink. Yet for all that has been mapped, the pyramid guards its deepest secrets. The tunnel network explores only a fraction of the interior. Vast, undisturbed sections of the original structures remain sealed within the earthen hill, completely inaccessible. What might they contain? Archaeologists speculate that undiscovered tombs of high priests or rulers could lie in these sealed chambers, along with ceremonial offerings of jade, obsidian, or gold that were placed during the countless renovations. The central altar of the very first temple, the spiritual seed from which this man-made mountain grew, likely remains untouched in the deepest, oldest core. The mystery is one of immense scale and spiritual significance. Here is a monument that was so important, it was rebuilt and enlarged for a millennium, only to be deliberately hidden and forgotten. It represents a palimpsest in the truest sense, where the writing of one civilization was physically overwritten by another, yet the original text still exists, complete and entire, just beneath the surface. The church on the hill is not a contradiction to the ancient pyramid, but the final layer in its long, complex story. What other foundational truths about these pre-Columbian worlds are still waiting, silent and intact, inside that man-made mountain? The transformation of a grand civic project into a hidden underworld can happen with shocking speed. In 1788, Edinburgh's South Bridge opened to great fanfare, a majestic stone viaduct of 19 arches designed to span the deep valley of the Cowgate and connect the city's historic High Street with the University District. It was a symbol of Enlightenment progress, yet the space within its massive supporting arches, a series of around 120 chambers known as the vaults, would tell a very different story. Initially intended as dry storage workshops for the businesses on the bridge above, these rooms were quickly abandoned by their original tenants. The construction had been rushed, and the vaults proved to be perpetually damp, cold, and poorly ventilated. Almost immediately, the city's most desperate citizens moved in. What was built as an engineering marvel became, within a generation, one of Europe's most notorious subterranean slums. The vaults became a sealed, shadow city beneath the bridge. Without natural light or proper sanitation, they were partitioned into tiny living spaces, taverns known as house, and workshops for cobblers and other trades operating on the edge of the law. This was a community living in profound hardship, a stark contrast to the elegant new town being constructed just to the north. For decades, life persisted in this damp gloom until a combination of public health concerns and the desire to erase this blight led the city authorities to simply seal the vaults shut in the early 19th century. The entrances were bricked up, and the bridge's forgotten basement was left to the darkness and the slow drip of water. For over a century, they were a ghost memory, a rumor in the city's history. Their rediscovery in the late 1980s was accidental, sparked by a businessman investigating cellar space. When explorers broke through the old seals, they did not find empty chambers. They walked into a time capsule. The constant damp, while destructive, had also preserved a tragic snapshot of everyday life. They found remnants of the partitions that had created makeshift homes, pieces of pottery and leather, and even the worn stones of old hearths. These physical artifacts, silent and corroded, are the core of the historical mystery here. They are not the treasures of kings, but the humble possessions of the invisible poor. Each fragment tells a story of resilience and survival in unimaginable conditions. Who were the individuals who slept by this hearth? What was the last conversation had in that illicit tavern before the bricks were laid across the doorway? The vaults offer no written records of these lives, only these poignant, anonymous relics. This tangible history, however, is now intertwined with another layer of modern lore. Since being opened for tours, the vaults have gained a global reputation as one of the world's most haunted places. Visitors and staff alike report feelings of unease, sudden temperature drops, and sightings of shadowy figures, most famously a persistent presence known as the South Bridge entity. Paranormal investigators are drawn to the palpable atmosphere of the sealed chambers. This presents a fascinating duality. The historical mystery seeks to understand the tangible, difficult lives led in that space, while the paranormal narrative speaks to the emotional residue such intense suffering may have left behind. Whether one believes in ghosts or not, the power of the vaults lies in their ability to make the past feel immediately present. They force us to remember that beneath the polished stone of a celebrated city, there often lies a buried world of struggle, its echoes still faintly audible in the dark if we choose to listen. What stories might other sealed urban spaces hold? Stories not of grand events, but of quiet, forgotten endurance. The contrast between Edinburgh's sealed slums and the fate of a much older city could not be more stark. In the plains of modern Pakistan, the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro represent one of humanity's first and most sophisticated experiments in urban living. This was the jewel of the Indus Valley civilization, a metropolis flourishing over 4,000 years ago with a level of planning that feels eerily modern. Its streets were laid out in a precise grid, its homes featured advanced drainage and bathing systems, and it seemed to thrive for centuries without any evidence of palaces, temples, or even a standing army. This was a society built on order, hygiene, and civic harmony, a model of peaceful coexistence that makes its eventual disappearance all the more perplexing. For a long time, the dominant theory painted a grim picture. In the early 20th century, archaeologists excavating the city's lower levels made a startling discovery. They found clusters of human remains in the streets and inside some buildings, some appearing to be in poses of sudden distress. This led to the dramatic hypothesis of a single, catastrophic event, a final massacre that wiped out the city's inhabitants in one violent day. The narrative of a peaceful civilization brutally cut down by invading forces became a powerful, if tragic, story. Yet modern scholarship has dramatically shifted this view. Many researchers now believe those remains do not tell a story of a single battle. Instead, they suggest these individuals may have succumbed to illness or other hardships over time, and were not given formal burials due to the social disruption of the city's final, slow decline. The idea of a sudden, violent invasion has largely fallen out of favor, replaced by theories of a gradual collapse triggered by environmental change. The mighty Indus River, the lifeblood of the civilization, may have shifted its course, or prolonged droughts may have crippled agriculture, forcing a slow, agonizing abandonment over generations. This is where a specific, tangible mystery at the heart of the city comes into focus. At the center of Mohenjo-Daro's raised citadel stands a deep, brick-lined well. Unlike the many other wells that serve the public, this one is uniquely positioned within the most secure and administrative part of the city. For decades, it has been a focal point of intrigue. During excavations, this well yielded a collection of unusual and valuable artifacts, including intricately carved seals, beads, and other objects that seem out of place in a simple water source. Why were such items deposited there? Was this a place for ceremonial offerings, perhaps in a desperate attempt to appease gods during a time of crisis? Or was it a secure hiding place where the city's elite tried to safeguard their treasures as the social order unraveled around them? The well's true purpose and what might still lie in its deepest, unreachable sediments is a direct physical link to the city's final days. It represents a silent witness. Did people gather around this well as the water level dropped? A stark indicator of a changing climate. Were the final acts of the city's leaders conducted here? The well does not offer easy answers, but it anchors the abstract theories of collapse to a real, physical location. The mystery of Mohenjo-Daro is no longer simply one of violence, but of resilience in the face of invisible, creeping forces. It challenges us to look beyond dramatic tales of conquest and consider how even the most advanced and orderly societies can be undone by a changing relationship with their environment. What final, unanswered plea or act of preservation does that deep, dark well in the citadel still hold within its silence? The ashes of a city can become the foundation for an entirely new one. In June 1889, a devastating fire swept through the bustling port of Seattle, reducing its wooden business district to smoldering ruins. Yet from this disaster emerged a radical plan for rebirth, an engineering decision that would create a hidden city beneath the streets. To solve the chronic problems of flooding and mud in the tidal flat where Seattle was built, the city fathers made a bold decree. They would raise the level of the entire downtown area, in some places by as much as 32 feet. New retaining walls were built along the streets, the gaps filled with gravel, and new roadways were paved at this higher elevation. The result was that the original ground floors of surviving buildings, along with their sidewalks and storefronts, were left in perpetual twilight, buried beneath the new city. For a time, these spaces remained accessible via ladders and staircases from the new street level, creating a surreal, subterranean network of tunnels and abandoned shopfronts. This buried world, however, did not remain empty for long. Cut off from official oversight and natural light, the underground quickly transformed into a shadow economy. It became a labyrinthine haven for illicit activity, a place where the rules of the city above did not apply. In the damp, dark passages, secret gambling halls, speakeasies, and other establishments flourished, operating beyond the reach of the law. For decades, this netherworld was a poorly kept secret, a place of both danger and opportunity, until public safety concerns finally led the city to seal most of the entrances with thick concrete in the early 20th century. Today, guided tours wind through a small, stabilized section of this buried city, where visitors can stand on the original, slanted sidewalks and peer into the ghostly facades of 19th-century shops, their windows still intact but looking out only onto packed earth. Yet the true mystery lies beyond the tour route. The vast majority of the underground network remains off-limits, officially sealed and largely unexplored. These areas are considered far too unstable for public access, with the constant risk of collapse from the weight of the modern city above. This presents a tantalizing historical puzzle. What remnants of the pre-fire city, or of the chaotic underground era that followed, might still be preserved in those silent, sealed chambers? Archaeologists and historians speculate that these unstable sections could contain unrecorded structures from the earliest days of Seattle, perhaps even complete shop interiors that were simply bricked up and forgotten. Could there be artifacts left behind in the rush of the fire, or belongings abandoned when the illicit operations were finally shut down? The unstable ground makes modern exploration extremely dangerous, so these questions linger. The buried city is a physical metaphor for urban transformation, a literal lower layer holding the raw, unvarnished history of a city's struggle and reinvention. It asks us what we choose to build upon and what we choose to leave in the dark, silently supporting the world we walk through every day. A fortress under siege holds its breath. In the year 1291, the Crusader city of Acre, the last major stronghold of the Latin Kingdom of Jerusalem, was surrounded by a vast Mamluk army. Within its walls, the Knights Templar, a military order of monk warriors, prepared for a final, desperate stand. Their formidable fortress, perched at the city's southwestern tip, was a symbol of power, but as the enemy's siege engines pounded the walls, that power was turning into a trap. It was in this moment of looming crisis that the Templars relied on a secret known only to their highest ranks, a hidden passage carved through the very bedrock beneath their feet. This was not a tunnel for supply, but for escape, a last-chance route from the heart of their citadel directly down to the seaport. For centuries after the city's fall, the tunnel's existence faded into legend, another lost fragment of the Crusader era. Then, in 1994, a simple plumbing mishap in the modern Israeli city of Acre led to an astonishing discovery. A resident dealing with a backed-up sewer line broke through a wall in his basement and found not more pipe but a hollow, echoing darkness. Archaeologists were called in, and they revealed a perfectly engineered stone corridor, over 150 meters long, vaulted and wide enough for two men to walk abreast. This was the Templar Tunnel, a breathtaking feat of clandestine medieval engineering. Walking its length today, from the site of the old fortress to the ancient port, you can feel the weight of that history in the cool, damp air. The tunnel's purpose is clear, a direct path to potential rescue by sea, but its discovery solved one mystery only to create a far more compelling one. Is this magnificent passage the only one? Historians studying the layout of Crusader Acre have long suspected that the Templars, famed for their secrecy and architectural prowess, would not have invested such effort in a single escape route. Their fortress was a complex with a treasury, archives, and a central convent. The discovered tunnel runs in one strategic direction, but what about connections to other key points within the city walls? Could there be a branching, subterranean network, now sealed by centuries of rubble and later construction, linking the main fortress to other Templar properties, perhaps even to the rival headquarters of the Knights Hospitaller? The possibility is tantalizing. Such a network would have served not just for escape, but for the secure, unseen movement of personnel, messages, and perhaps most intriguingly, their legendary wealth. The final days of Acre were chaotic, with the city falling street by street. While historical accounts describe the Templar fortress holding out for days after the main city fell, the ultimate fate of their archive and treasury remains unknown. Were they captured, destroyed, or secretly moved? The discovered tunnel proves they had the means and the foresight to create hidden pathways. It is not difficult to imagine other tunnels now lost that could lead to sealed chambers. These might be rooms where the Order's internal records were hidden, documents that could shed new light on their rituals and operations, or even caches of valuables secured in their final, desperate hours. The stone passage, now cleanly excavated and lit for tourists, is thus a doorway to a deeper enigma. It stands as solid proof of the Templars' underground capabilities, a single thread from what might have been a vast, hidden web beneath the Crusader city. Every sealed cellar or unstable foundation in old Acre now holds the question, does the silence beyond the wall hold only earth, or does it hold another corridor, leading deeper into the guarded secrets of history's most mysterious nights? Beneath the elegant cafes and Baroque palaces of Vienna lies a city turned inside out. While the world knows its music and art, locals have long whispered about a different kind of symphony echoing in the dark, a network of cellars, crypts, and canals that form a hidden inverted twin to the capital above. This subterranean world was thrust into the global imagination by the classic 1949 film The Third Man, where its shadowy passages became the perfect setting for post-war intrigue. Yet the reality beneath Vienna is far more extensive and ancient than any screenplay. For centuries, the city's greatest subterranean challenge came not from spies but from water. The Wien River, prone to violent flooding, was eventually tamed by being entombed in a massive brick canal beneath the city streets in the 1800s. This feat of engineering created a ghost river, a roaring torrent you can walk beside on quiet pathways, a constant reminder of the natural force that shaped the city's underground ambitions. But the water channels are just the beginning. Vienna sits atop a honeycomb of medieval and Renaissance cellars, originally built for storage of wine, food, and goods. Their true purpose, however, would transform with the times. During the relentless Ottoman sieges of the 16th and 17th centuries, these spaces became refuges. Centuries later, during the conflicts of the 20th century, they were repurposed once more, now as official air raid shelters, their thick stone walls offering a desperate kind of safety. Walking these spaces today on one of the famous Third Man tours, you pass through layers of adapted fear, from medieval crossbow slits bricked over to faded civil defense signs from the 1940s. The central enigma of Vienna's underworld is not the existence of these individual spaces, but their suspected interconnectedness. Persistent rumors and fragmented historical plans suggest that many of these cellars were once linked, forming clandestine routes between monasteries, government buildings, and noble residences. Were these passages for security, for secret diplomacy, or simply for the practical movement of goods away from the crowded streets? The full map, if it ever existed, is lost. Today, thick walls of modern concrete seal off countless side passages, leaving historians to wonder what lies behind them. This is where the mystery becomes an archaeological treasure hunt. Each sealed cellar is a potential time capsule, its contents stratified by the city's tumultuous history. What might they hold? Perhaps forgotten stocks of wine from a vineyard long since paved over, or merchant records from the 18th century preserved in the cool, stable air. From the era of the Ottoman sieges, there could be artifacts of a city under strain, like hastily modified armor or communal cooking pots. From the more recent past, the shelters might still contain the poignant, mundane leftovers of families waiting out the storm of war, a child's toy, or a ration tin. These objects are not crown jewels, but they are the intimate fingerprints of history, offering a silent, powerful narrative of a city's endurance. The tours illuminate the known, but the true scale of the unknown beckons. Every sealed archway poses a question: does this lead to a dead end, or to another chamber and another, deeper into the forgotten heart of old Vienna? It is a reminder that a city's memory is not kept only in its museums, but also in its silent, dark basements, holding the echoes of every crisis it has ever weathered. Vienna's cellars hold the memory of crises past, but another city's forgotten waterways shaped its very bones. London is famously built upon the Thames, yet that great river is not alone. A secret network of tributaries still flows beneath the metropolis, silent and unseen. These are the lost rivers of London, like the Fleet, the Tyburn, and the Walbrook. Once they were open streams, vital sources of water and transport, winding through valleys that would become the city's most famous streets. The River Fleet, for instance, gave its name to Fleet Street, and its valley created the steep slope of Ludgate Hill. But as London exploded in size during the Industrial Revolution, these waterways faced a grim fate. They became open sewers, choked with the waste of 1 million people, their banks crowded with tanneries and slaughterhouses. The stench was unbearable, a public health crisis flowing through the heart of the city. The solution was not to clean them, but to hide them. Engineers performed a monumental act of urban surgery, bricking over these rivers one by one, encasing them in vast, barrel-vaulted tunnels and converting them into components of the new sewer system. The open streams vanished from sight, buried beneath centuries of progress, yet they never truly left. You can still trace their paths by walking the city's landscape. A sudden dip in a road, an inexplicable curve in a terrace of houses, or a street name like River Street or Spring Gardens. These are the ghosts of the old geography. The lost rivers dictate where water pools during a heavy rain and where basement walls persistently dampen, their forgotten courses still asserting a quiet hydrological influence. This act of concealment, however, created a unique kind of archaeological time capsule. Within those dark, brick-lined channels, beneath layers of accumulated silt, lies a mystery of immense potential. The environment in these sealed rivers is often anaerobic, meaning it lacks oxygen. This is a perfect condition for preservation. Organic materials that would normally rot in the open air, wood, leather, textiles, even food waste, can survive for centuries in such a state. So what might lie in that deep, silent silt? The possibilities are a historian's dream. In the channel of the Walbrook, which once ran through the heart of Roman Londinium, there could be perfectly preserved wooden writing tablets, discarded leather shoes from a legionary, or merchant seals that fell from the docks. The fleet which served medieval London might hold the lost tools of Viking craftsmen, or ceramic vessels that slipped from a trader's cart on the way to Smithfield Market. These rivers were not just waterways, they were the gutters of history, catching the everyday detritus of 2,000 years of urban life. The mystery is one of accidental curation. While archaeologists carefully excavate known sites, these riverbeds are accidental archives, their contents sorted and deposited by the flow of water itself. A systematic exploration of their silt could provide an unparalleled chronological record of the city's material culture, from the Roman era straight through to the Victorian age. But they remain largely unexplored, sealed under tons of infrastructure and the relentless pulse of modern London. They remind us that a city's past is not always buried vertically in layers, but can also flow horizontally in forgotten streams, carrying the echoes of daily life in its dark, preserved embrace. What intimate story of a Roman child's toy or a medieval merchant's lost key might be waiting perfectly intact in the eternal damp beneath a busy intersection? Herodotus stood before it and declared it more astonishing than the pyramids themselves. The ancient Greek historian, traveling through Egypt in the 5th century before the Common Era, was given a tour of a structure so vast and complex it defied belief. He called it the Labyrinth, a sprawling complex built near the pyramid of the pharaoh Amenemhat III at Hawara. In his writings, he described a palace of unparalleled scale, a monument to administrative power and religious devotion that contained, by his count, 3,000 rooms. He wrote of endless colonnades, sunlit courts, and sacred shrines, a maze of stones so intricate that without a guide, one would be lost forever. For centuries, his account was treated as the exaggerated tale of a wonder-struck traveler, another myth from a land of myths. Modern archaeology, however, has confirmed a startling truth. The labyrinth was real. Today, the site is a heartbreaking landscape of ruin. Where Herodotus walked through grand halls, visitors now see a vast, flat field of crushed limestone and pottery shards, a few foundation trenches cut into the earth by early 20th century excavators. It looks less like a lost wonder and more like a quarry. The stone that built the legendary complex was systematically carted away over millennia, reused in later Roman and Islamic buildings, leaving behind only a ghostly imprint in the sand. This utter devastation is the source of the modern mystery. If so much was taken, what could possibly remain? The answer may lie not in what was taken, but in what was left behind, and more importantly, what lies beneath. Archaeologists understand that the labyrinth was not a single building, but an immense complex, likely the administrative and religious capital for the entire region during the Middle Kingdom. It would have housed priests, scribes, treasuries, and archives, a functioning city of government in stone. While the superstructure is gone, its foundations, cellars, and subterranean levels may still be intact, buried under countless tons of wind-blown sand and rubble. This is where the real enigma takes shape. The early excavations, led by figures like Flinders Petrie, were limited by the technology of their time. They uncovered the ground plan of a sizable structure, but they could not penetrate deeply or widely across the entire site. Their work suggested the complex was far larger than the area they could physically uncover. Modern non-invasive techniques like ground-penetrating radar have hinted at massive, regular anomalies beneath the surface, shapes that suggest walls and chambers extending far beyond the known ruin. The potential is staggering. Could there be sealed underground archives, rooms that escaped the stone robbers because they were filled in or deliberately hidden? In a civilization that recorded everything on papyrus, such a cache would be a treasure beyond gold. These chambers could hold the lost administrative records of Amenemhat III's reign, detailed accounts of trade, law, and daily life in the Middle Kingdom, a period often overshadowed by the more famous Old and New Kingdoms. They might contain ritual texts, maps, or even early scientific observations, all preserved in the dry, dark silence below the desert. The labyrinth's true legacy may not be its vanished splendor, but its hidden memory. Each grain of sand over that ruined field guards a possibility. Is the greatest wonder of Hawara not what was seen by Herodotus, but what he never got to see, the sealed chambers that hold the literal paperwork of a pharaoh's vision, waiting in a darkness far deeper than any maze? Its flood control system is a modern wonder built for a silent, constant war. Deep beneath the suburbs of Saitama, just north of Tokyo, lies a structure of such staggering scale it has earned the nickname the Underground Temple. This is the Metropolitan Area Outer Underground Discharge Channel, a colossal network of tunnels and caverns designed for a single, monumental purpose: to protect the modern megacity from the devastating floods that its own ancient rivers can unleash. The entire system is a masterpiece of contemporary engineering, a 5.5-mile-long subterranean riverbed that intercepts overflow from several major waterways during typhoon season. It funnels the raging water into 5 immense silos, each one 70 meters tall and 30 meters wide, vast enough to hold the Statue of Liberty. These silos connect to a single, cathedral-like main tunnel, a space so enormous that heavy machinery can drive freely within it. The sheer, clean lines of the concrete, the eerie stillness when empty, and the monumental scale combine to create an atmosphere that feels less like infrastructure and more like a modern-day version of the pyramids, a testament to human will over nature. While the system itself is a known, functional marvel, its construction in the 1990s and 2000s unearthed a different kind of mystery, one that reaches back far before the first concrete was poured. To build something of this magnitude, engineers had to drill and excavate through dozens of meters of earth and bedrock. In doing so, their boreholes and core samples acted like tiny time machines, pulling up a vertical history of the land upon which Tokyo is built. Geologists and archaeologists studying these samples found evidence of a landscape utterly alien to the dense urban sprawl of today. They discovered layers of ancient peat and soil that spoke of vast wetlands and shallow seas, the environment of the ancient Musashino Plain that existed thousands of years ago. Within these layers were traces of prehistoric life, pollen from long-vanished plants, and microfossils of marine organisms, all painting a picture of a time when this was a fertile, water-rich delta. The compelling question raised by this discovery is a profound one. If the ground here preserved such detailed environmental records, what else might it hold? The construction of the discharge channel was a linear project, a deep trench cut through the landscape. It did not constitute a broad archaeological dig. So the mystery remains: what lies in the undisturbed earth to either side of those massive tunnels? Scholars now wonder if the banks of these ancient, buried rivers and marshes might have been attractive sites for early human settlement during the Jomon period, over 10,000 years ago. Could there be remnants of prehistoric fishing villages, tools made of bone or stone, or even the post holes of wooden structures, now entombed under 20 meters of silt and the foundation of a satellite city? These potential sites are now sealed away, protected by their own obscurity and the immense weight of the modern world above them. The flood control system, in its battle against water, may have inadvertently revealed clues to a lost world that water itself created. It presents a poignant duality. Here is a futuristic structure dedicated to managing the natural forces that once made this same land habitable for our earliest ancestors. The silent, cathedral-like chambers now stand guard over two histories: the very recent story of a city's engineering triumph, and the far older, fragmentary story of the land itself, a story written in layers of mud and memory, waiting just beyond the concrete walls. The silence in Malta holds a sound older than history. On the island, beneath the streets of the town of Paola, lies a sanctuary that defies simple classification. This is the Hal-Saflieni Hypogeum, a vast three-level underground complex carved entirely by hand from the solid limestone bedrock, a process that began over 5,000 years ago. It is not a natural cave system adapted for use, but a deliberate architectural masterpiece excavated from the top down, mirroring the megalithic temples that stand above ground across Malta. To walk its restored upper levels is to enter a realm of shadows and echoes, where low ceilings give way to spacious, circular chambers, their walls smoothed by countless hands. The hypogeum's original purpose seems to have been dual in nature, serving as both a sacred temple and a final resting place. During its use, which spanned centuries, the remains of an estimated 7,000 individuals were carefully interred within its deepest crypts, a practice that suggests this was a profoundly important necropolis for the island's mysterious prehistoric society. The discovery of these remains in the early 20th century was, however, marked by confusion and loss. Early excavations were not conducted with modern archaeological care, and the disposition of the bones became part of the site's enduring puzzle. While many skeletal remains were documented, a significant number of skulls were noted to be missing from the burial chambers. Their fate is unknown, lost to hurried digging or perhaps removed in antiquity for reasons we can only guess at, leaving a silent question in the empty spaces of the dark. Yet the hypogeum's most captivating mystery is not one of silence but of sound. Deep within the complex lies a room known as the Oracle Chamber. This small, oval space is unremarkable to the eye, but its acoustic properties are extraordinary. A deep male voice, spoken or chanted in a specific corner of this chamber, produces a powerful resonance that vibrates through the stone, filling the entire hypogeum with a haunting, reverberating hum. The sound seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, an experience that would have felt supernatural to the people who created it. This was no accident. The chamber's shape and the architecture of the connecting passages are precisely engineered to create this effect. The purpose of this acoustic feature is a subject of deep fascination. Was it used by a priest or shaman to project a voice that seemed to be the voice of the earth itself, delivering oracles from the underworld? Did the rhythmic chanting and drumming in this space induce altered states of consciousness during rituals? The walls of the hypogeum offer other clues in the form of intricate, spiraling carvings painted in red ochre, motifs that echo those found in Malta's above-ground temples. These spirals, often interpreted as symbols of life, death, and rebirth, further deepen the spiritual context of the place. The hypogeum presents a complete, enclosed cosmos. It is a testament to a culture that invested immense labor not in monuments to the sky, but in a sacred hollowed-out space within the living rock. Every carved step, every resonant chamber, speaks of a ritual technology focused on the journey of the spirit, leveraging the very bones of the island to create an experience of the sacred. What ceremonies of light, sound, and memory unfolded in that eternal dark, and what knowledge passed from generation to generation in the echoing hum of the oracle's voice, only to fall silent for millennia. Gibraltar is not just a rock, it is a fortress riddled with secrets. For centuries, this monolithic limestone promontory has been prized for its commanding position at the gateway between the Atlantic and the Mediterranean. Every power that held it understood that its true strength lay not just on its surface but within it. The result is a staggering subterranean labyrinth, over 30 miles of tunnels, chambers, and galleries carved by hand through the living stone. This is not the work of a single era, but a cumulative project of militarization spanning British, Spanish, and possibly far older occupations. The most famous expansions occurred during the Second World War, when engineers hollowed out entire underground cities capable of housing garrisons for months, complete with hospitals and power stations. Yet behind these modern fortifications lie older, shadowy passages that hint at the rock's deeper, more enigmatic past. Some tunnels are attributed to the Great Siege of the late 18th century, when British defenders dug countermines to intercept Spanish and French forces attempting to tunnel in. These older galleries are rougher, less documented, and often sealed off for safety. It is here that the historical mystery takes root. Local legend and fragmentary records speak of even earlier workings, perhaps from the Moorish period when Gibraltar was a stronghold of the Islamic Emirate, or speculatively, from the Phoenician traders who used the rock as a landmark millennia ago. Could there be sealed chambers from these eras, forgotten storage rooms or cisterns that were incorporated into later military works, and then walled up? The potential for archaeological discovery is profound. A sealed Moorish armory or a Phoenician votive chamber could rewrite chapters of the rock's complex history. But the mysteries may reach back further than human occupation. The Rock of Gibraltar is a fossil hunter's paradise. Its limestone caves, like the famous Gorham's Cave complex, have yielded incredible Neanderthal artifacts and remains, proving it was a key habitat for our ancient cousins. The labyrinth of man-made tunnels, however, may intersect with natural caverns that have been inaccessible for tens of thousands of years. These could act as perfect traps, preserving the bones of Pleistocene-era animals that wandered in and never found their way out. Imagine a tunnel project breaking into a sealed void to find the complete skeleton of a cave bear or a giant deer, creatures that vanished from this landscape at the end of the last ice age. The rock's dual identity as a natural fossil vault and a man-made fortress creates a unique puzzle. Every sealed doorway in the network poses two questions. Does it guard a relic of human conflict or a treasure of natural history? The tunnels are a physical timeline where a World War II command center might sit just meters from a medieval Sally port, which itself might be built atop a cave that sheltered Neanderthals. The full map of this underworld is likely incomplete, with older sections lost to record or deliberately obscured for strategic reasons. This makes Gibraltar not just a geopolitical icon, but a multi-layered archaeological site, its most guarded secrets still locked in the cool, dark silence beneath the Mediterranean sun. The return of a monument can be a story of healing, but it can also reopen ancient questions. In the highlands of northern Ethiopia, the ancient city of Axum is a forest of stone, dotted with towering, intricately carved obelisks known as stelae. These are the grave markers of the Axumite kings, a civilization that thrived as a major power from the 1st to the 8th centuries. The grandest of them all was a 79-foot-tall, single piece of granite, a masterpiece of engineering and symbolism. Its carved facade mimics a multi-story building with false doors and windows, representing a kind of palace for the spirit in the afterlife. In 1937, this majestic stele was taken. Italian forces during the occupation of Ethiopia dismantled the obelisk and shipped it to Rome, where it stood for decades as a trophy of conquest. Its return in 2005, after years of diplomatic effort, was a moment of profound national significance, a piece of the country's soul brought home. Yet the homecoming highlighted a parallel mystery, one that lies not across the sea, but directly beneath the soil of Axum itself. The returned obelisk had a twin, one of equal or even greater size. Historical accounts and local tradition say this colossal stele fell and shattered in antiquity, perhaps during its erection or due to an earthquake. The great question is, where are the pieces? The accepted narrative is that it broke into several large sections, which were then lost or reused. But some archaeologists and researchers propose a more compelling possibility. They suggest that the largest fragments of this fallen giant were never moved. Instead, they may have been simply buried where they fell, either by the Axumites themselves as a form of respectful concealment, or by centuries of accumulated earth and debris. If true, these massive carved blocks, some weighing many tons, could still lie in situ, just meters below the modern ground surface near the famous Stele Field. This is not merely a search for broken stone. The obelisks were not standalone monuments. Each one served as the marker for a subterranean royal tomb, a complex of vaulted chambers built beneath it. The tombs associated with the standing stele have been excavated, revealing artifacts that speak of the Axumite kingdom's wealth and reach, from intricate gold jewelry to glassware from the Roman world. The tomb of the fallen obelisk, however, has never been found. This creates a tantalizing archaeological scenario. The burial chamber of that lost king, and any treasures or inscriptions it contains, would have been sealed and protected by the very collapse of its marker. While looters might have targeted an accessible tomb, a chamber buried under hundreds of tons of fractured granite would have been a far more daunting prospect. So the mystery is twofold, waiting in the dark earth. First, could major sections of one of the ancient world's largest single stone monuments be resting just out of sight, their intricate carvings pressed against the soil? And second, what royal secrets might the intact tomb beneath those fragments hold? Finding it could provide unparalleled insight into the burial customs, trade networks, and political lineage of Axum at its zenith. The returned obelisk now stands again in its homeland, a symbol of resilience, but its missing twin and the king it was meant to honor remain a silent, buried chapter, inviting us to wonder what other foundations of history are still supported by the very weight of their own collapse. While kings built monuments to their power, other civilizations built lifelines for survival. In the arid heart of the Iranian plateau, where the sun bleaches the earth and rain is a rare gift, an ancient engineering marvel made life possible. This is the qanat, a gently sloping underground channel that acts as a subterranean river, guiding water from distant aquifers in the foothills to the parched plains below. For over 2 millennia, these hidden waterways have been the silent, beating heart of Persian civilization. Their genius is in their elegant simplicity. A mother well is dug deep into a water-bearing layer of rock in the mountains. From there, a tunnel is carved with a precise, gentle slope, just enough for gravity to pull the water along, but not so steep as to cause erosion. At regular intervals, vertical shafts are dug from the surface down to the tunnel, providing ventilation for the diggers and a means to remove excavated soil. The result is a self-sustaining system that delivers a steady, reliable flow of cool, clean water without a single pump, entirely powered by gravity. Cities like Yazd, known as the Bride of the Desert, owe their very existence to these veins of water running silently beneath the sands. The scale is staggering. Some qanats stretch for over 30 miles, and Iran's network is thought to contain tens of thousands of these channels, a hidden vascular system for an entire civilization. Many are still in use today, a testament to the foresight of their original engineers. Yet this ancient, functioning infrastructure also guards profound mysteries. The full extent of the oldest networks is unknown. Centuries of maintenance, collapse, and abandonment have left a labyrinth beneath cities like Yazd and Gonabad that is only partially mapped. While the active channels are cleaned and cared for, countless side tunnels and collapsed sections have been sealed off by time and debris. These forgotten passages are where history may be perfectly preserved. The mystery lies in what these sealed sections could contain. The construction of a qanat was a communal project that could take generations. As workers inched the tunnel forward, they lived and worked in the dark, cool passage. What did they leave behind? In the dry, stable environment of a collapsed tunnel, archaeologists speculate they might find the original tools of the diggers, bronze or iron picks, oil lamps for light, or even the marks of their labor scored into the tunnel walls. These artifacts would be a direct snapshot of ancient hydro-engineering in progress. Furthermore, the vertical access shafts, once they fell out of use, became convenient time capsules. Over the centuries, people would toss everyday items into these deep, dark holes. A broken ceramic vessel from the Sasanian era, a coin from the time of the Silk Road, or a child's toy from the medieval period could all lie in the accumulated silt at the bottom of a shaft, creating a perfect chronological record of the communities that lived above. The qanats are more than just water channels, they are accidental archives. Each sealed tunnel and forgotten shaft is a letter from the past, written not on paper, but in layers of dust and lost objects. They hold the story of how a society mastered its environment through patience and collective effort, turning a desert into a garden. What intimate moments of toil and triumph are frozen in the eternal damp of those dark, silent channels, waiting for a modern explorer's light to bring them back into the story of human ingenuity. Prague Castle is not a single building, but a sprawling complex of palaces, churches, and halls, a 1,000-year-old seat of power perched above the city. Its grandeur is visible to every visitor, but its true nature as a fortress of secrets lies in the labyrinth woven within its walls. For centuries, rulers and their courtiers moved through a hidden world of passages, spy holes, and clandestine rooms, all designed for security, escape, and intrigue. This network was the castle's nervous system, allowing for the unseen movement of people, the overhearing of conversations, and the swift disappearance of those who fell from favor. While many of these corridors are now part of historical tours, leading from royal apartments to unexpected exits in distant courtyards, the castle guards a deeper class of secret, the spaces that remain deliberately sealed, their original purposes blurred into legend. Among the most tantalizing of these is the legendary Room of the Gold Finders. Historical records vaguely reference this chamber, suggesting it was used by the castle's assayers, the officials who tested the purity of coins and metals for the royal treasury. The name itself implies a place of verification and hidden wealth, yet its exact location has been lost, absorbed into the castle's immense substructure. Some researchers believe it was not merely an office, but a secure vault or laboratory, perhaps even connected to the castle's ancient well system for discreet disposal. The idea that a room with such a direct link to state finance could simply vanish within a mapped complex speaks to the intentional obscurity of the place. Was it walled up during a renovation, or does it sit behind a forgotten door, its contents untouched for centuries? The mystery of the gold finders is a tangible one, a specific void in the historical record that invites exploration. This physical enigma connects to a far richer historical puzzle, centered on one of the castle's most enigmatic residents, Emperor Rudolf II. In the late 16th and early 17th centuries, Rudolf transformed Prague Castle less into a political capital and more into a European center for the esoteric. He was a passionate patron of alchemy, astrology, and the occult, assembling a court filled with artists, astronomers, and mysterious figures seeking the philosopher's stone. His legendary collections were cabinets of wonder, filled with scientific instruments, exotic artifacts, and artworks of breathtaking beauty. Yet Rudolf's reign ended in turmoil, with political pressure forcing his abdication. In the chaos that followed, portions of his magnificent collections were scattered, sold, or looted. This historical dislocation fuels a persistent and compelling rumor. Scholars and enthusiasts have long wondered if, in the maze of hidden passages and sealed rooms, a chamber from Rudolf's time might survive intact. Could there be a forgotten archive or a sealed laboratory, hidden away by the emperor or his loyalists to protect its contents? Such a space might not hold gold, but something far more precious to history: lost manuscripts on alchemical processes, unique astronomical instruments of his era, or even paintings and sculptures deemed too unconventional for later tastes. The castle's architecture, with its layers of construction and reputation for secrecy, makes this more than mere fantasy. It is a plausible historical possibility. Each sealed cellar, every walled-up archway in the older sections of the complex, now holds a dual identity. It could be structural filler, or it could be the final barrier to a Renaissance mind's most private sanctuary. The search is not for treasure, but for a lost chapter in the history of ideas, a physical echo of a time when magic and science were intertwined, waiting in the silent dark beneath the castle's stones. What forgotten instrument of discovery or what coded manuscript might still lie there, protected by centuries of silence and stone? The grand pyramids of Teotihuacan stand as silent giants against the Mexican sky, but they are only the public face of a much deeper mystery. For decades, archaeologists have known that the vast Avenue of the Dead connects these monumental temples to sprawling residential compounds and a massive sunken plaza known as the Citadel. This plaza, large enough to hold tens of thousands of people, is itself a profound puzzle, a ceremonial space whose exact role in the city's political and spiritual life remains debated. Yet the true revelation lies not in what we can see, but in what has remained hidden beneath our feet. Recent years have brought a technological leap in understanding, using a method called LiDAR, a form of laser scanning from above. By mapping the landscape, researchers pierced the veil of soil and stone. Their discovery was astonishing. Directly beneath the Pyramid of the Feathered Serpent, the centerpiece of the citadel, LiDAR revealed the contours of a large natural cave and a man-made tunnel system leading into the Earth's darkness. This was not a small cavity, but a significant subterranean landscape, deliberately incorporated into the very foundation of one of the city's most important temples. The immediate question is a captivating one. Why would the builders of Teotihuacan go to such extraordinary lengths to build upon and likely access this underground space? The possibilities open a window into the city's worldview. One leading theory suggests this could be the long-sought royal tomb of Teotihuacan's ruler. Unlike the Egyptians or the Maya, no definitive tomb of a Teotihuacan sovereign has ever been found. This sealed chamber, deep in the earth and protected by the pyramid's immense weight, would be a logical and profoundly sacred resting place. Another interpretation is even more symbolic. In Mesoamerican belief, caves and tunnels were often seen as entrances to the underworld, realms of ancestral power and creation. By constructing their pyramid over this natural cave, the city's architects may have been physically anchoring their temple to the mythic landscape of the gods, creating a direct portal between the world of the living and the world of the spirits. The tunnel could have been used for rituals of descent and emergence, dramatic reenactments of death and rebirth performed by priests. The enigma, of course, is what the chamber actually contains. Its inaccessibility, due to the fragile state of the pyramid above, makes it a perfect, if frustrating, time capsule. Within that cool, dark silence could be the answers to Teotihuacan's greatest puzzles. Archaeologists speculate that if it is a tomb, it might hold funerary offerings of unparalleled richness, jade masks, obsidian artifacts, and murals depicting the city's unknown lineage. If it is a ritual space, the walls might be adorned with paintings illustrating creation myths, or the floor might hold the remains of ceremonial fires and offerings left centuries ago. This discovery fundamentally changes our perception of the site. Teotihuacan is no longer just a city of soaring pyramids and wide avenues. It is a city with a hidden root system, a deliberate architectural dialogue with the underworld. The Pyramid of the Feathered Serpent is not merely a monument to a deity, but a capstone placed over a sacred void, a man-made mountain guarding a secret at its heart. What profound truths about birth, power, and the cosmos are sealed in that darkness, waiting for the day when technology allows us to respectfully enter without causing the past to crumble? In the scorching red heart of the Australian outback, an entire town has retreated into the earth to survive. Kuba Pedi is a place defined by what lies beneath, a community born from the lustrous, fiery beauty of opal. For over a century, miners have carved into the sandstone, seeking the precious gems that flash with color in the dark. But the true architectural legacy of this hunt is not the mines themselves, but the homes they left behind. When a seam runs dry, the excavated space, a cool and stable cavity deep in the ground, often becomes a dwelling. These are the dugouts, a labyrinthine subterranean suburbia where families live in rooms with curved rock walls, complete with carved-out furniture, churches, and even hotels, all to escape the relentless surface heat that can render the outside world uninhabitable. This creates a living archaeology where the past century of human endeavor is not buried, but actively inhabited. The historical mystery here is not one of ancient civilizations, but of the very recent, rough and tumble past of the town itself, and it lurks in the walls of these modern homes. The challenge is one of chaotic record-keeping. In the feverish early days of the opal rush, from the 1910s through the mid-20th century, claims were staked, worked, and abandoned with little official documentation. Miners followed rumors and gut feelings, digging shafts and tunnels that were often never formally mapped. As a result, when a modern family expands their dugout home, knocking through a wall into the next chamber, they never know what they might find. They could break into an adjacent, forgotten mining tunnel from 80 years prior, a space sealed by time and dust. Within that silent pocket of air, the past sits waiting. The mystery is in the mundane, personal artifacts left behind in a sudden rush. It could be a miner's simple belongings, a rusted tin of tobacco, a worn leather boot, or a handwritten ledger detailing hopes and expenses. There might be tools like a pick with a handle smoothed by a specific pair of hands, simply leaned against a wall when the owner went for supplies and never returned. These objects are not treasure in the conventional sense, but they are intimate records of the individuals who built the town from nothing. They tell stories of hardship, of fleeting luck, and of the day-to-day struggle that defined the frontier life. Even more compelling is the geological secret these lost tunnels might hold. An unregistered shaft might lead to a small, untouched seam of opal, a pocket of color that the original miner simply missed. Discovering this would be like finding a lost sentence in the town's economic diary, a footnote to its wealth. Every expansion, every new carved room in Kuba Pedi is therefore an act of potential archaeology. The residents are not just homeowners, but inadvertent curators of their own town's foundation myth, living literally inside the evidence of its creation. It presents a unique historical dynamic, where the drive to create a comfortable present constantly risks intersecting with the raw, unvarnished reality of the past. What forgotten dream or moment of despair is sealed behind that next layer of sandstone, just a few feet from where someone now sleeps, completely unaware of the silent history sharing their wall? Istanbul's skyline is a tapestry of minarets and domes, but its true foundation is a hidden sea. Everyone knows the Basilica Cistern, with its forest of marble columns rising from dark, still water, a palace built for rain. Yet this magnificent chamber is just the grandest room in a submerged city. Beneath the streets lie hundreds of other Byzantine cisterns, vast brick-vaulted reservoirs built over 1,000 years ago to sustain Constantinople through siege and drought. Most are forgotten, sealed under centuries of construction, their locations marked only by slight dips in the terrain or the persistent damp in a modern basement. The scale is almost impossible to grasp. Historians estimate the network once held hundreds of millions of gallons, a parallel, inverted aqueduct system that made the metropolis above possible. Today, you might walk right over one, completely unaware of the cathedral-like void just meters below your feet. Their rediscovery is often a matter of chance. Construction crews digging foundations for a new hotel or a parking garage will break through into emptiness, their work lights illuminating arched ceilings reflected in black water. These moments reveal a city built in layers where the past isn't just below, but actively supporting the present in the most literal way. Each one is a time capsule sealed by neglect. While the Basilica cistern has been cleaned and lit for tourists, its hundreds of siblings remain in darkness, filled with stagnant water and, more importantly, deep layers of accumulated silt. This mud is where the true historical mystery lies. For centuries, these cisterns were active, collecting not just water from aqueducts, but everything that water carried in from the streets and rooftops of the ancient city. As they fell out of use and were sealed, that sediment settled, trapping the everyday debris of Byzantine life in a perfect, anaerobic preserve. What might lie in that deep, cold mud? The possibilities are extraordinarily intimate. Archaeologists speculate that the silt at the bottom of a forgotten cistern could hold a complete cross-section of the city's material culture. The slow-moving inlet water would have carried small, lost objects from across Constantinople. Imagine a child's ceramic toy dropped in a courtyard gutter after a rainstorm, eventually washing into the subterranean reservoir. A merchant's bronze scale weight, a broken hairpin of bone, or a coin slipped through a gap in a market stall floor could all have made the same journey. Over the centuries, these objects sank into the soft bed, protected from oxygen and decay. A systematic exploration of just one sealed cistern could yield thousands of such artifacts, a random but breathtakingly detailed inventory of daily life from a millennium ago. The mystery, then, is one of immense potential waiting in the dark. We know the network is vast, but we do not know its full reach or how many cisterns remain completely untouched. Each sealed chamber is a locked archive, its contents sorted not by a librarian, but by the flow of water and time. The focus is not on finding treasure in the conventional sense, but on recovering the lost voice of the city itself, in the humble, personal items that its citizens used, lost, and never thought about again. What forgotten story of a Byzantine family, written in lost buttons and broken pottery, is waiting to be read from the mud at the bottom of a parking garage's hidden foundation? Lisbon's identity is written in its 7 famous hills, a geography of winding streets and breathtaking views. Yet beneath the orderly grid of the downtown Beijing district, a ghost of an 8th hill may lie sleeping. The story begins with one of Europe's most devastating natural disasters, the Great Earthquake and Tsunami of 1755. That event did not just shatter the city, it reshaped its very bones. The old medieval Lisbon, a tangled web of palaces, churches, and cramped neighborhoods, was reduced to rubble and ash by the tremors and the fires that followed. In its place, the Marquess de Pombal, the king's chief minister, oversaw a radical act of urban rebirth. He ordered the Baixa to be rebuilt from the ground up, with wide, straight streets and uniform buildings designed to be earthquake-resistant. This required an immense engineering effort, one that involved clearing away mountains of debris and, according to a compelling theory, literally flattening the landscape itself. Historians and geologists studying old maps and accounts have long noted a puzzling discrepancy. Descriptions of pre-earthquake Lisbon mention a significant elevation in the area that is now the flat Baixa, a rise that doesn't align with the classic Seven Hills. This has led to the persistent idea of a lost eighth hill, perhaps a ridge or a substantial slope that was systematically cut down and used as fill to create the stable, level platform for the new city. The evidence is not just in documents but in the ground. Modern construction projects in the Baixa, whether for new subway lines or building foundations, constantly stumble upon the past. Workers have uncovered the ruins of entire streets, complete with cobblestones and drainage channels, running at strange angles and depths beneath the modern grid. They find the foundations of grand buildings that appear on no surviving map, and cellars filled with artifacts from the morning of the earthquake, preserved in a moment of catastrophe. A broken teacup, a merchant's ledger, or a child's toy suddenly illuminated by construction lights after centuries of darkness. These finds confirm that the Pombaline downtown was not just built upon ruins, but upon a completely vanished topography. The mystery, then, is one of a lost landscape. What was the true shape of that eighth hill? Was it a distinct neighborhood with its own character, perhaps home to a specific guild or community? Did its summit hold a church or a nobleman's palace that was so utterly destroyed its memory faded? The orderly geometry of the modern Baixa is like a sheet of graph paper laid over a richly detailed, hand-drawn sketch. We can see fragments of the old lines peeking through, but the full picture remains obscured. Every archaeological discovery is a clue, helping to piece together the three-dimensional puzzle of the city that was erased. This makes modern Lisbon a unique palimpsest. Its most famous district is not just built on history, but on an entire missing piece of geography, a hill that was sacrificed to create a safer future. The silent stones beneath the tram tracks hold the contour lines of a world that disappeared in a single day, inviting us to wonder what other hills, both literal and metaphorical, have been paved over in the name of progress, their stories waiting just beneath the surface of the world we think we know. Beneath the modern streets of Kumamoto, an entire warrior class lies in silent vigil. The region is famed for its samurai heritage, with historic districts preserving the atmosphere of the Edo period. Yet the most direct connection to those feudal lords is not in the museums or restored houses above ground, but in the hidden chambers carved into the earth below. For centuries, the ruling clans of this area followed ancient traditions of burial, first constructing large earthen mounds known as coffin, and later, as space and security became concerns, excavating intricate tunnel tombs directly into the soft volcanic rock of the hillsides. These were not simple graves, but designed as secure, eternal resting places for a daimyo, a regional lord, and sometimes his immediate family. The entrance would be sealed with stone, and the location often kept secret to protect the site from disturbance. Over time, many of these tombs were lost, their surface markers erased by landslides, forest growth, or the relentless spread of the modern city. Today, it is not uncommon for construction crews in Kumamoto, while preparing land for a new building or road, to break through a hillside and find a carefully carved stone doorway leading into darkness. These discoveries present an immediate and profound dilemma. On one hand, they are archaeological treasures of the highest order. A sealed samurai tomb, untouched for 300 or 400 years, could contain artifacts that would rewrite local histories. We can speculate about what might be inside based on known burial customs of the era. The lord would likely be clad in his ceremonial armor, a masterpiece of lacquer and iron, placed beside his prized swords, objects of both lethal function and spiritual significance. There could be personal seals, scrolls of poetry or strategy, and items of daily life meant to accompany him into the next world. Each object would be a direct, unfiltered link to the individual and his station, free from the wear of time or the hand of later collectors. The mystery, however, is protected by powerful cultural and ethical considerations. In Japan, these sites are treated with the utmost respect as the final resting places of ancestors. Excavation is never undertaken lightly or for mere curiosity. It is a slow, solemn process, often conducted only when a tomb is threatened by natural erosion or unavoidable development. This means that for every tunnel tomb accidentally uncovered, there are likely many more that remain peacefully hidden, their locations known only from fragmented clan records or forgotten altogether. They sleep beneath parks, residential neighborhoods, and commercial districts, their contents perfectly preserved in the cool, stable darkness. The enigma they guard is therefore dual in nature. First, what specific historical truths do they hold about the rise and fall of the clans that shaped Kumamoto? A single scroll could clarify a disputed lineage or reveal the terms of a secret alliance. Second, and perhaps more deeply, they represent a cultural choice to let the past rest. The mystery is preserved not by loss, but by a conscious decision to honor silence over discovery. These sealed chambers remind us that some histories are meant to be kept, not collected, their stories complete in their own eternal quiet, a testament to a warrior culture's desire for a dignified and permanent peace. The stone beneath Odessa holds a darkness more profound than any mine. This is a city built upon its own hollowed-out skeleton, a staggering labyrinth of catacombs carved from soft limestone over 2 centuries. The original purpose was practical, to extract building material for the elegant neoclassical facades that would rise above. But when the quarries were abandoned, they left behind an estimated 2,500 kilometers of tunnels, a subterranean maze that could stretch from Paris to Moscow if laid end to end. Only a tiny fraction, perhaps 5%, has ever been properly charted. This created a perfect hidden world, one that would be claimed by those who needed to operate outside the sight of authority. For generations, the catacombs served as a haven for smugglers, moving goods unseen beneath the bustling port city. Their legacy would be eclipsed, however, by the sheer desperation of the 20th century. During the Second World War, these pitch-black passages became a fortress for Soviet partisans, resistance fighters who used the unmapped tunnels to launch guerrilla raids against occupying forces. They established hidden bases, hospitals, and printing presses in the eternal dark, a secret city waging a silent war. The catacombs provided shelter, but they also demanded a terrible price, for their true danger lies not in their history, but in their geography. The central, enduring mystery of Odessa's underworld is not about what is down there, but about who never came back. The labyrinth is a notorious trap. Its passages are a chaotic, repetitive grid with identical-looking corridors branching at confusing angles. There are no landmarks, and sound behaves strangely, muffled by the porous stone. Over the decades, countless amateur explorers, drawn by the allure of the unknown, have ventured in without proper guides or equipment, only to become hopelessly disoriented. Their fates form a somber chapter in the city's lore. Some were found, often by sheer luck, after days of wandering in total darkness. Others simply vanished, their ultimate resting place becoming one with the maze they sought to conquer. These stories cast a long shadow, transforming the catacombs from a historical site into a place of profound psychological weight, where the past feels alive with a silent, watchful presence. This palpable danger, however, is intertwined with the site's tantalizing potential. The unmapped 95% of the network is where history may be sitting perfectly preserved. Think of the various eras that used these tunnels. A smuggler from the 1800s, fearing capture, might have sealed a cache of contraband in a side chamber and never returned to claim it. A partisan cell in the frantic final days of conflict could have hidden their archives, maps, or communications in a niche, intending to retrieve them later, an intention that, for many, was never fulfilled. These potential caches are not just objects, they are frozen moments. A bundle of partisan leaflets would tell a story of defiance. A smuggler's hidden brandy or textiles speaks to the underground economy of a bygone era. The catacombs act as a vast, accidental museum, its exhibits scattered in the dark, waiting for a chance beam of light. Yet the sheer scale and peril of the place keep these secrets guarded. Organized archaeological work is immensely difficult and dangerous, limited to the known, stable sections. This leaves the true heart of the labyrinth in the realm of speculation and legend. It stands as a monument to both human resilience and human frailty, a place where heroes sought refuge and where the unprepared met their end. The silence in those unmapped corridors is absolute, but it is a silence that holds echoes of whispered plans, hurried footsteps, and the quiet, desperate hope of those who believed the darkness could keep them safe. What fragments of a resistance fighter's last letter, or what artifact from a forgotten trade, might still lie in that endless dark, waiting for a map that will never be drawn? Carthage commands the spotlight, its name synonymous with epic wars and legendary destruction. But just 30 miles to its northwest, a quieter, deeper history lies sleeping under the Tunisian earth. This is Utica, once the premier Phoenician port in North Africa, founded centuries before Carthage itself. In its heyday, Utica was a bustling hub of maritime trade, a vital first foothold for Phoenician settlers arriving from the eastern Mediterranean. Its wealth and strategic importance were so great that when Rome finally defeated Carthage, Utica was rewarded, becoming the capital of the new Roman province of Africa. For a time it flourished, adorned with forums, theaters, and villas. Yet today, visitors to the archaeological site do not find a city by the sea. They walk among ruins set well inland, surrounded by fertile plains. The coastline that defined Utica's destiny has retreated, leaving its once great harbors stranded miles from the water. This geographical transformation is the key to its modern mystery. Over centuries, the Mohenjo-Daro River deposited immense quantities of silt as it reached the sea, gradually pushing the coastline outward and burying the city's maritime heart under meters of sediment. The visible ruins are impressive, but they represent primarily the later Roman city, built on top of this accumulating land. The most historically valuable layers, the original Phoenician settlement and its early harbors, are thought to lie much deeper, sealed under this thick blanket of earth. This creates an archaeological enigma of immense potential. What might those deepest strata contain? Utica was the first Phoenician colony in the region, a beachhead established around 1100 years before the Common Era. Its earliest levels could hold the blueprint for Phoenician expansion, revealing the layout of their first homes, the design of their initial port facilities, and the everyday objects they brought from their homeland. These artifacts would be time capsules from a moment of profound cultural transmission, showing how these master sailors and traders adapted to a new continent. The buried harbors are perhaps the most tantalizing prospect. In that deep, waterlogged silt, the environment is often anaerobic, devoid of oxygen. This is a perfect preserver of organic materials that normally rot away. Archaeologists dream of what the mud might hold: perfectly intact wooden hulls of Phoenician trading vessels, coils of ancient rope, cargoes of amphorae still sealed with their original contents, or even the wooden piers and wharves themselves frozen in time. Finding such a harbor would not just be a discovery of objects, it would be a discovery of a moment, a preserved snapshot of the city's founding purpose. The contrast with Carthage is poignant. Carthage was famously razed, its stones scattered, and its site rebuilt by the Romans. Its earliest layers were profoundly disturbed. Utica, however, may have been preserved by its own misfortune. The very silt that choked its port and led to its economic decline also acted as a protective shroud, gently encasing its oldest quarters in a state of suspended animation. The city did not burn, it simply fell asleep under the accumulating soil. modern excavations have only scratched the surface, revealing tantalizing hints of the wealth beneath, like the famous Utica treasure, a hoard of Roman silver found in a villa. But the foundational layers, the true origin story of Phoenician Africa, remain guarded by deep earth. The mystery of Utica, therefore, is one of patience and depth. It asks us to look past the grand monuments of later conquerors and consider the quiet, buried foundations of the first arrivals. What lost ship, what first treaty with local peoples, what sacred altar to Melkart or Baal, lies waiting in the darkness, holding the untold story of how a seafaring people from the Levant planted their first permanent roots on a distant shore, setting in motion a chain of events that would reshape the ancient world. The silence of a sealed tomb is one thing, but the rumble of a hidden train is another. While cities guard their ancient mysteries, some conceal infrastructures of a far more recent and strategic nature. Beneath the celebrated Art Deco halls and deep tunnels of Moscow's public metro system, a persistent legend has swirled for decades. This is the story of Metro 2, a parallel, secret underground railway said to have been constructed for the highest echelons of Soviet power. Unlike the public network designed for the masses, this alleged system was purportedly built with a singular, urgent purpose: to ensure the continuity of the state in a time of extreme crisis. It was envisioned as a clandestine escape route and a secure, mobile command center, allowing the political and military leadership to evacuate the capital or direct operations from deep within the earth, safe from any threat above. The tunnels, according to various accounts, were said to connect the Kremlin with other key government facilities, military command bunkers, and perhaps even an airport outside the city, creating a hidden web of power beneath the streets. For years, these stories were dismissed in the West as mere Cold War folklore, an exaggerated myth born from the secrecy of the Soviet state. Then, in the early 1990s, following the dissolution of the Soviet Union, former officials began to speak. A former Moscow metro construction chief publicly confirmed that such a system did exist, built by the same ministry that oversaw the metro. His statements, along with scattered comments from other retired personnel, transformed Metro 2 from a rumor into a widely accepted historical fact. The mystery, however, did not dissolve with this confirmation. It merely deepened. Official acknowledgement remains minimal and carefully worded. No maps have been released, no tours are given, and its current status and full capabilities are a tightly guarded state secret. This leaves us with profound questions about its true scale and modern function. How extensive is the network? Does it consist of a few critical lines, or is it a sprawling, second subway system? What technologies does it contain? More intriguingly, what is its purpose today? While its original role as a Cold War evacuation route is clear, its function in the 21st century is subject to intense speculation. It could serve as the ultimate secure communications backbone, a shielded data highway for the digital age. It might house hardened servers or serve as a training ground for special forces. The very secrecy that surrounds it fuels the imagination, representing the ultimate hidden layer of modern statecraft. It is a physical manifestation of a mindset that prepared for worst-case scenarios by building a complete, alternate reality underground. This enigma connects directly to the themes we have explored, but with a chilling, contemporary twist. Here is not a forgotten city or a sacred tomb, but a deliberately maintained, functional secret woven into the infrastructure of a modern capital. It reminds us that the layers beneath our feet are not always from the distant past. Some are very much alive, humming with activity and intention, a silent testament to the enduring human impulse to build for survival, control, and the shadows that linger long after an era's defining tensions have supposedly faded. What other unseen systems, designed not for public service but for sovereign continuity, might lie in the deep bedrock of the world's powerful capitals? their very existence a quiet echo of the fears and preparations of a previous age. A city's foundation can be a ship's grave. San Francisco's soaring financial district, a forest of steel and glass, rests upon a secret more chaotic than bedrock. This ground was not always land. In the frantic years following the 1848 gold rush, the city's waterfront was a scene of pandemonium. Hundreds of ships from around the world sailed into the bay, their crews abandoning them in a heartbeat to rush for the hills. The harbor became a forest of masts, a floating ghost fleet with no one left to sail it. Faced with a critical shortage of real estate and a shoreline of treacherous mudflats, the city's early entrepreneurs saw an opportunity in this nautical graveyard. They did not clear the ships away, they built upon them. These abandoned vessels were deliberately scuttled, dragged onto the mud, and used as the literal foundation for new wharves and warehouses. Over decades, more ships, rubble, and landfill were piled on top, pushing the shoreline ever further into the bay. Entire neighborhoods, including what is now the heart of the financial district, were created atop this artificial ground. The original shoreline of 1848 now lies nearly a quarter-mile inland, buried under the weight of progress. This act of practical recycling created a unique archaeological scenario. The mud of the bay is anaerobic, lacking oxygen, a perfect preserver of organic material. When a wooden ship was sunk and immediately covered by silt and landfill, it was essentially sealed in a time capsule. The cold, dark, oxygen-free mud would have prevented the hull from rotting, potentially leaving entire sections of these gold rush-era ships perfectly intact, mere meters below the basements of modern skyscrapers. The mystery, then, is one of preservation and chance. What might those buried hulls contain? The ships were not carefully emptied museums. They were abandoned in a rush. Within their preserved holds and cabins, the mud could hold the intimate debris of that frenzied moment. We could find the personal possessions sailors left behind when they jumped ship, a sea chest filled with clothes from Canton, a discarded journal, or a surgeon's kit. There might be cargo that was never unloaded, barrels of nails meant for building a city, or crates of luxury goods that suddenly lost all value when gold was discovered. Each object would be a direct snapshot of global connection and personal desperation. Furthermore, the buried city holds another layer. Not just ships, but the first streets and building foundations of early San Francisco lie entombed below the current street level. In some places, the original ground floors of 1850s buildings now serve as the sub-basements of 20th century towers, their brick walls silently holding up the future. These spaces, sealed when the streets were raised to combat flooding and sewage problems in the late 19th century, are also frozen in time. A shopfront buried intact might still have its sign painted on the window, or its shelves might hold jars of goods that were suddenly left behind. The central enigma is one of scale and surprise. Construction projects in the area are constantly encountering these ghosts. Piling rigs driving supports for a new high-rise might strike the iron-hard timber of a ship's keel. Excavations for a new subway line or utility tunnel can break into a perfectly preserved brick cellar from 1859, its air still thick with the dust of the past. Each discovery is a fragment, but no one knows the full map of what lies beneath. How many complete ship hulls are down there? What forgotten first chapters of the city's wild youth are written in the mud, protected by the very act of being built over? San Francisco's most enduring treasure might not be in its hills, but deep beneath them, in the silent, waterlogged embrace of its own improbable birth. The Yellow River did not just flood Kaifeng, it entombed it. Over centuries, this great waterway, known as China's Sorrow, has repeatedly broken its banks and changed its course, each time depositing a new layer of thick, sealing silt over the city. The result is a geological archive of staggering depth, where the glories of the Northern Song Dynasty capital, a metropolis of over 1 million people and a pinnacle of art, commerce, and technology, lie preserved under meters of earth. At the city-upon-city archaeological site, you can literally walk down through time, past cross-sections of Ming Dynasty walls built upon Yuan Dynasty streets, which themselves sit atop the drowned palaces of the Song. It is a vertical timeline, a monument to both human achievement and nature's relentless power. Yet the most compelling mysteries are not in these excavated trenches, but in the silent, grassy hills that dot the surrounding farmland. These are the unexcavated mounds of Kaifeng, gentle rises in an otherwise flat landscape that local tradition has long whispered are imperial tombs. Historians believe these tumuli may be the lost resting places of the Song emperors, the architects of one of China's most culturally brilliant eras. The Northern Song dynasty was renowned for its artistic refinement, its groundbreaking use of paper money, and its civil service system, but the precise locations of many imperial tombs from this period have been lost to the very floods that buried the city. These mounds represent a final, sealed chapter. The potential within them is enough to make any historian pause. An intact Song dynasty imperial tomb would be a treasure vault of a different kind. Beyond any precious artifacts, the true value would lie in the historical texts. It was customary to bury emperors with extensive burial inventories, stone inscriptions detailing their reign, and perhaps even copies of important documents or literary works. These inscriptions could clarify disputed successions, shed light on diplomatic relations with neighboring states like the Liao and Jin, or offer first-hand accounts of court life and philosophy that official histories written later may have simplified or altered. The contents could rewrite our understanding of this pivotal dynasty's final days in the north before it was forced to retreat south. The mystery is protected by a profound respect and a significant practical challenge. These mounds are not just archaeological sites, they are considered sacred ancestral ground. The decision to excavate is never taken lightly, weighed against cultural sensitivities and the principle of preserving heritage in situ. Furthermore, the same silt that protects the tombs also complicates their exploration, as the waterlogged ground requires incredibly careful, slow archaeological techniques to prevent damage to any organic materials like silks, paintings, or wooden tablets that may have survived in the anaerobic mud. So the mounds remain quiet and green under the open sky. They are a different kind of time capsule, not hidden beneath a modern metropolis, but resting in plain sight in the countryside, their secrets guarded by tradition and patience. They ask us to consider what we choose to leave undisturbed and what truths we are willing to let sleep until the moment is right. In their silent presence, they hold the complete, untouched legacy of an empire's zenith, waiting for the day when the story they contain is ready to be gently lifted from the earth and read, not as legend but as history. This journey through 30 hidden cities reveals a single, unifying truth. Our modern metropolises are not in points, but merely the latest chapter in a story written in stone, silt, and bone. From the sacred echoes in Malta's Hypogeum to the clandestine tunnels beneath Moscow, from the buried ships of San Francisco to the silt-sealed tombs of Kaifeng, each mystery represents a question mark pressed against the foundation of our world. They are not relics locked away in distant museums, but active, silent participants in the landscape, waiting for a construction crew's surprise discovery, a new radar technology, or simply a curious mind to ask the right question. History, it turns out, is not confined to the pages of a book. It is a living, breathing layer cake of human experience, and we walk upon its frosting every single day. These stories remind us that every city street is a lid on a box, and we can never be entirely sure what that box contains. It might hold a forgotten well that witnessed an empire's last day, a sealed chamber where a Renaissance emperor pondered the stars, or the humble belongings of someone who simply lived, worked, and dreamed in a space we now call our own. The past is not behind us, it is quite literally underfoot, a foundation of mysteries that supports the weight of our present. So the next time you walk through your own city, pause for a moment. Listen to the hum of the subway, feel the vibration of traffic, and look at the ancient curve of a familiar street. Ask yourself, what layers lie beneath this sidewalk? What silent stories are resting just beyond the reach of the streetlights? Every city on Earth has its own hidden chapters. We would love to hear about the urban legends, the local ghost stories, or the unexplained historical whispers from your own corner of the world. Share them in the comments below, and if you want to keep exploring the incredible secrets buried by time, make sure to subscribe and join us for our next journey into the past.